Squad, it's Quad's back with another video, and today we are looking at the Cinewhoop or Cinewhoop category in the 2-inch bracket. A while ago I reviewed the Pavo 20 and said I was going to take a look at, and obviously the Flywoo Flylens 85, and said I was going to take a look at the Mobular 8 and then compare all three. Now the Mobular 8 review isn't out yet, but I am at a position now where I am ready to deliver the verdict. The Flywoo Flylens 85 initially started me on the road to the 2-inch Cinewhoop bracket, and that was really capable and a really enjoyable thing to fly until it let me down on a shoot. Now at the time I'd only just got into this bracket of filming, if you like, in this bracket of drone quads, so I didn't have a backup, I didn't have a spare. For any other shoot, I would have had a backup and a spare. So what happened was, really quickly, we did the Grumpy shoot, which you can see in the link above. And the day shoot didn't feel right. And I was thinking, is my piloting bad? Have I lost it? I've not been particularly well. I do have long-term illnesses and disabilities. Sometimes I can't do things. Sometimes I have to give up on even attempting to do things. But I figured something ain't right. But when I reviewed some of the footage, it was perfect. So I just couldn't put my finger on it. So I went home, had a rest until the band came in later on in the day. And we'd gone around and we'd spoken to everybody in the venue and we'd explained to them there was going to be this drone flying around, and most of them had seen it earlier on in the day. Everybody was really excited by this point. The band were aware of the route that the drone was going to take, and we had spotters and everybody was set. And I plugged the drone in and bang, it went pop. Now it's since been confirmed it was a resistor that blew off. Nobody can seem to tell me why, but that's what's happened. And that put a real sour point on the Flylens, to the point where I've ripped out the flight controller, put a new one in, and gone 4S with it. But I haven't had enough chance to test it. And we had a couple more shoots come up that we needed it for. So I decided to take the Mobular and the Beta FPV Pavo 20. Initially, the Beta FPV Pavo 20 had really impressed me when I went to a wooded area and decided to dive a tree that was about 100 foot from like an extra probably 50 foot above it, and it took it like a champ. And then I did some cinematic things around the pond, and it was just brilliant. So on the next shoot I decided Pavo 20 all the way. It was windy outside, so that extra power of it being 3S really did give me that confidence that it would be okay. And then on the shoot, it was just so locked and so dialed in. I was flying in air mode. It was just locked in, and I think the results of the shoot at Bobby's Ice Cream Parlour really do speak for themselves about how locked in it was that day. And again, with pretty much most of these shoots that we've had, we were against the clock. We were in not a perfect situation. Bobby's was still not finished when we arrived. There was diggers, there was mounds of earth. Inside they were still sort of getting it ready for us to do. And then by the time we had the shoot, sort of time was then against us, because they was wanting to go home, but also we needed to move to get the edit out in time for them to put the promo out for the next day. So I needed a quad that I could take out of my bag, put on the floor, and or put on the table or wherever, and just go for it. And I picked Pavo 20. That was the one that gave me the confidence and the inspiration to do that shoot against the time, against the clock, against the conditions, against the wind, inside and outside. And I think it absolutely knocked it out of the park. There was one area that I did then do with the Mobular 20, and it's a great drone, and I really appreciate Barry Morgan sending it the channel. I really do. But the Pavo 20 is perfect. So I'll put on screen some more footage that we've done, but we've flown across lakes, we've flown through nature reserves, we've never bothered any of the animals there because of how quiet it is. Sometimes I even have to look at it and check and make sure it's actually armed when it says it's armed, because it's that quiet. When it was indoors, it's not too intimidating for the people that are around it. And then for me as the pilot, it's just so genuinely easy to control and get that cinematic flow from. So we've put all three on the table and we look at some scores between them. So we will look at the Flywoo before we upgraded it. We'll look at the Mobula and we'll look at the Pavo 20. Now, image quality is going to be the same for all three because all three have got the DJI O3 Air unit. And I recently learned if you really fine tune those settings, that thing can look incredible as demonstrated. Power wise, again, if we look at it before the upgrade to the Flylens, so power wise, I would say the Mobula is the least powerful, the Flywoo is in the middle, and then the Pavo 20 has the most power. That would be down to the fact it's running 3S and the other two are running 2S. The Mobula just feels heavier and a bit more of a lump to fly around. I mean, it's more than capable, don't get me wrong, but again, if we're picking which one we want, then I'm gonna pick the Pavo 20 all day long. I did do an experiment and 3D printed a battery case for the Mobula 8 because officially you can only fit a 550 battery in it. So we tried an 820 and the voltage just dropped to about 3.8 on takeoff. So not only is the battery size limited in physicality, but I think it's also limited based upon the power and the kV of those motors. Really capable drone, don't get me wrong, but you're going to have to stick to the 550s and then you're going to really limit yourself right down to 3 minutes flight time per flight. Flight time wise, the Flywoo was getting about 3.5-4 minutes. But again, the Pavo 30 just eclipses both of those because if you're flying indoors and you're taking it slowly and cinematically, I'm eking out 6 minutes plus from a battery, sometimes even more, to be fair. Now, the Flywoo, I was able to get about 5 minutes at a real push from, whereas the Pavo 20, like I say, I'm getting 6 minutes out of it and more, to be fair, without really thinking about it. Convenience-wise, again, we'll look at the Mobula 8. It will only physically take a 550, and obviously the other issue is the weight of anything heavier than a 550. It seems to struggle with, so that would be third. Second, I will put the Pavo 20 because the battery is only so wide. The battery tray is only so wide, so you do have to be careful when buying batteries that they're not too thick and they're not too wide. And then in first place, when it comes to practicality, I will say the Flywoo Flylens because I've been able to put all sorts of batteries on that with a 3D printed strip and had no issues with it whatsoever, including 4S batteries. And I think the only other point really to know is the practicality of landing these things. So the Mobula actually comes first here. So in third place, we're going to go, I think, for the Flywoo because the Flywoo lands on its O3 air unit, which I think's it's fine if you're an experienced pilot, but it can go very bad very quickly. Second place I'm going to say is the Pavo 20, purely down to the fact that the battery is underslung, but it's exposed. So again, if you have too hard of a landing, you are potentially going to pierce that battery. But we are talking really hard landings because it's that light. Obviously, your momentum's not going to carry that much weight into the ground with it. And then in first place, I'm going to go the Mobula 8 because although the battery's underslung, it's in an actual cage with a couple of pieces of plastic around it, and it would be really hard to actually pierce that battery on landing. But overall, like I say, for a tool, if I had a promo to film and I could only take one of these with me, I'd take 2 Beta FPV Pavo 20s. This thing has won this contest by an absolute country mile. Beta FPV even said that they would consider adding something other than bi-blade props, maybe into the box, I don't know, Beta FPV, let me know. I understand that they want to keep the weight down, the noise down, and everything else from a marketing point of view, hence why they use the bi-blades. And I get that, and that's absolutely fine, but just include some tri-blades in for less experienced pilots, I think. Well, that's a really minor thing. So I think if I was to move forward from here, what I would probably do is remove the O3 from the Mobula 8 and put a walk snail or HD0 in there and try different things with that, because variety is indeed the spice of life. And maybe my friends at Beta FPV would send me a second Pavo 20 to put this second O3 air unit in, because if I'm turning up to a professional shoot or a promotional shoot and I've got to get that shoot done and I'm under time constraints and I'm under pressure, the one thing I want with me is a Beta FPV Pavo 20. You've been amazing. I've been Quads. Until next time, peace. bye.